One of the things which I think is a common misconception is doing core work
Hmm.
in inverted commas, and then that'll solve the problem. And often it doesn't, and I can imagine that's one of the reasons why it's somewhere down the line, like a couple of years down the line, where women will tend to come to
Yeah,
you. Explain why that's not going to be the fix. Like, okay, I've got
yeah,
diastasis recti. All right, fine. I'm just going to do some core work and I'll be fine. And 6 months later,
yeah,
8 months later, a year later, you're like, oh, it hasn't resolved. What the
yeah,
hell's going on? In fact, I might even be in
yeah,
worse shape. Like I don't have that connection with my core. My
yeah.
core is actually weaker, which is paradoxical to them. So explain why
Mm.
that's not the answer.
I think it depends on what you mean by core exercises, but if you're doing like really heavy core exercises where you've got that load of your legs up in the air and then you're sending your legs out and you haven't got that connectability and that functionality within your core, but also if you're doing curl ups and sit ups and rotation, and you're basically exacerbating the problem because everything hasn't closed up. If you haven't knitted back together and then you're trying to do these big, like long lever core exercises or doing the planks, which by the way are fine, but that within time and within the right
Yes.
process and the right amount of like time frame, planks are fine, but it's just going to exacerbate everything, especially if you're doing kind of oblique work. You're basically, you know, setting the obliques in this kind of short, pressed forward position. Whereas if we stretch everything out and get everything to open out and then get that breathing, that the breathing mechanics functioning better. And it almost feels counterintuitive because I'm getting people to breathe in and expand and stretch and open, and they're like, this doesn't feel right. And it's like, trust me, you have to be able to stretch a muscle to contract it, load to explode, right? So if those muscles are just there and this, and then you're doing all this, you're basically strengthening that diastasis recti in place and nothing's going to knit back together. Whereas if you just start to stretch and then move back and get everything a bit more pliable and get everything at the back to actually start to connect and kick in to get rid of that really, really dysfunctional lordosis, then that's when everything, we talked about symmetry earlier, that's where everything's going to start to become a little bit more symmetrical, a little bit more like the neurodevelopment stuff that we talk about as well, where we want to walk properly, we want to move better, we want to have more functional movement. Everything comes back to finding that position of the core and being able to breathe better so that your diaphragm can move better and create better core stability. Core work, the right core work is key. Core work, as I know some people know it, like that's going to make it worse. I hope that kind of answers that.